Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take sources and pull out the really compelling knowledge for you.
Uh-huh.
Today, we're diving into the story of a band that, well, they really helped define a whole era of funk and R&B. Their sound is just timeless.
It really is.
And for this deep dive, the information comes from the internet and may not be entirely accurate, using material provided by MW1 Stop's Music Movies and Sport,
Okay.
including some excerpts from a biography called Let It Whip, the Dazz Band Story. It apparently covers everything, from their roots in Cleveland right through to their legacy today.
Yeah, and our goal here is to unpack that story for you. We want to pull out the surprising bits, the key moments, and really get into how the Dazz Band evolved.
And figure out why their music still gets people moving, right?
Exactly, why it still resonates.
Okay, so let's start maybe somewhere unexpected for funk. Cleveland, Ohio.
Right, Cleveland.
Yeah.
The biography makes a strong case that, maybe overlooked. It was a real creative hub back in the late 60s, early 70s.
More than just rock and roll then.
Oh, yeah. You had major artists like the OJs, Sly, Slick, and Wicked coming out of there.
Yeah.
It was a vibrant scene for soul and funk, too.
Interesting. And smack in the middle of that was Bobby Harris, Cleveland native.
That's the guy. The biography paints him as the driving force. He was a music educator, a saxophonist.
And he had a vision, yeah. Influenced by the greats like James Brown, Sly Stone.
Absolutely. But he wanted something specific. He aimed for a band that had serious musical chops, real musicianship,
Yeah.
but also had that mass appeal. He was quite meticulous about it from the get-go.
So that first group, Bell Telefunk, they weren't just winging it.
Not at all. The book emphasizes this.
So-
These were like trained, seasoned players.
Trained how? Like
Right.
formally. Could they read charts?
Precisely. That was key for Harris. He specifically looked for musicians who could read charts, who could sight read, that let them handle really complex arrangements right from the start.
Wow. Okay, so they're playing local clubs, dances, honing the sound, blending jazz improvisation.
Which they could do because they had the training.
Right, with those funk grooves and pop hooks. Who are they listening to?
Well, the biography mentions they were real students of the game. Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago.
Bands with big horn sections, too.
Exactly. Tower of Power, Kool and the Gang.
Yeah.
They were studying how those bands put things together, the arrangements, the stage shows.
And that leads to the name change, right? Kinsman Dazz.
Yeah, named after Kinsman Road in Cleveland. And the name itself, Dazz.
Danceable jazz.
You got it.
Yeah.
Danceable jazz. It was sort of their mission statement right there in the name,
Right.
wasn't it? A clue to their whole brand.
And it wasn't just about the sound. The book talks about their early shows being really polished.
Oh, yeah. Not just jamming. They had coordinated outfits,
Oh.
choreography.
Seriously. Like scripted routines.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
The book kind of frames it in that tradition of black music as spectacle. The whole performance package mattered.
That level of professionalism must have turned heads. How did they get noticed outside Ohio?
Well, that polish definitely attracted national talent scouts. And a huge connection mentioned is the legendary Motown producer Reggie Andrews.
Okay.
And then, incredibly, they caught the ear of Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye. Wow, what did he see in them?
The book suggests he recognized something special in that blend they had. The sophisticated jazz side mixed with that gritty, streetwise funk.
That's quite an endorsement. And that led to a record deal.
Yeah, their first deal was with 20th Century Records. They put out 2 albums, Kinsman Dazz in '78 and then just Dazz in '79.
Were there any early tracks that hinted at what was coming?
The biography points to songs like Catching Up on Love and I Searched Around as examples showing that blend, that versatility, even back then.
Okay, so they're putting out records, building a buzz, but not quite hitting the mainstream charts yet.
Not in a big way. They were making noise, definitely building a reputation. But the book suggests their identity was still kind of forming. They needed maybe a sharper name, a clearer direction.
Which led them to?
The big move to Motown Records in 1980.
Ugh, Motown. That feels like a natural fit. But was Motown itself changing then?
Yeah, the early 80s Motown was kind of retooling.
Mm-hmm.
You're actively looking for bands that could innovate, bring fresh sounds, and get people onto the dance floor. Dazz Band fit the bill.
And the lineup really clicked around then, too. Bobby Harris still leading?
Still the leader on sax, yeah. And Skip Martin really stepping up as that charismatic frontman, trumpet and vocals.
Oh, now that voice.
And Mike Calhoun on guitar, Pierre DeMudd, Kevin Kyle Leftwich, solid core. And that musical literacy they had, that was a huge plus in the studio.
How so?
Well, they could knock out complex arrangements quickly because they could read the charts. Big advantage.
Their first Motown album, Invitation to Love, 1980, How did that land?
It laid a really sturdy foundation. The title track, Shake It Up. You can hear them settling into that polished, funky Motown sound
We're touring hard too.
constantly,
Yep.
building that live reputation, which was always crucial for them.
But then came the game changer, the collaboration with Reggie Andrews again.
And the song that just exploded, Let It Whip.
An absolute classic, instantly recognizable. What does the biography say about how that track came together?
It was written by Reggie Andrews and the amazing drummer Leon Ndugu Chancellor. The book describes the sound so well, that thundering drum groove,
Oh, yeah.
the iconic slap bass, those stabbing synths, and that call and response hook. It's just perfect early 80s funk production.
And the reaction was immediate.
Absolutely immediate. It came off the Keep It Live album in '82, shot straight to #1 R&B, #5 on the main Hot 100 chart. Huge crossover hit.
Wow, that must have felt incredible for them, and for Motown, too.
Massive validation for everyone involved, showed Motown's new direction was working.
And Keep It Live wasn't just about that one song, right? The album itself holds up.
Definitely. The biography highlights other tracks. The title track, Keep It Live on the KIL.
What did KIL stand for?
The book suggests it might have meant Keep It Live on the Keys I Love, like a nod to the importance of keyboards in their sound then.
Ah,
Yeah. And songs like Party Right Here, the ballad Just Can't Wait Till the Night. Critics praised it for being really cohesive, great sound quality, a strong album overall.
in that early 80s funk scene, which was packed with amazing bands, how did Dazz Band stand out?
Well, the book argues they found their unique lane. They were slick, very radio-friendly, but still had that funk edge that kind of bridged generations, you know.
Musicianship for the purists, hooks for the radio.
Exactly. They had the chops, but also the big, catchy hooks and that dance floor energy.
And that success took them everywhere.
All over the world. Touring with huge acts like Cameo, Kool and the Gang. The biography raves about their live shows, electrifying. Tight choreography, the horns blasting, that killer rhythm section.
And Skim Martin really came into his own as a frontman then.
Totally.
Yeah.
Became a real star on stage during that period. Charisma just pouring off him.
Okay, now for the absolute peak moment, maybe.
Gotta be the Grammys, right? Winning Best R&B Performance by a duo or group with vocals in 1983 for Let It Whip. The biography talks about the immense pride that brought, especially for a group from working-class Cleveland, achieving that. It just cemented their status overnight, put them on all the big tours, TV appearances.
It's amazing. And you think about hearing Let It Whip today, that instant jolt of energy it gives you.
Right.
The book makes it clear that wasn't just luck. That sound was crafted over years of practice, study, hard work.
It really speaks of persistence, doesn't it? Taking that deep musical knowledge and turning it into something universally loved.
So after a monster hit like that, the big question is always, what next? How do you stay relevant when music changes so fast?
Especially in the early 80s. Electro was coming in strong. Synth pop, the beginnings of hip hop. A real whirlwind. Following up Let It Whip was a huge challenge.
And their answer was the Joystick album in '83, leaning right into the time.
Totally. Even the title, referencing video games. Very zeitgeisty.
And the single Joystick.
Bold move. Very futuristic sound for them. Super funky, though. It hit top 10 R&B. The book mentions how it tapped into that arcade culture. You hear the robotic synths, the vocoder.
But still with that Dazz Band swagger.
Oh, yeah. That playful sensuality was still there. They didn't lose their core appeal.
And they kept expanding their sound on albums like Joystick and the next one, Jukebox in '84.
They did. Jukebox had hits like Swoop, I'm Yours, the ballad Until You, Now That I Have You, and especially Let It All Blow.
Let It All Blow was big too, wasn't it?
Yeah, another top 10 R&D hit, crossed over to the Hot 100 again. The book really highlights how they embraced the new tech synths, drum machines, digital production techniques that were cutting edge then.
And this seems important. They didn't just become a synth band.
No, and that's crucial to their identity.
Yeah.
The biography makes a point of this. Even with all the new gadgets, they kept the live horns, the live guitar. They were filtering the trends through their own soul-funk lens.
Which probably kept the musicians happy and the purists respecting them.
I think so. They maintained that musical integrity.
Then came the Hotspot album in '85. Still blending styles.
Yeah, sleek, funky, very tight production. The book mentions tracks like the title song Hotspot Knock Knock, but also smoother stuff like When You Needed Roses, showing off their ballad side too.
So even if radio was shifting away from pure funk, their live shows remained a huge draw.
Absolutely dominant, according to the biography. Huge demand internationally. Their reputation as a top-tier live funk act was solid, and the shows kept evolving Better lights, costumes, even adding things like breakdancers and video screens sometimes.
Must have been tricky navigating the industry changes, though. Funk wasn't topping the charts quite like it had been.
It's getting tougher commercially. Hip-hop was exploding, R&B was shifting toward that New Jack Swing sound,
Mm-hmm.
and labels were famously starting to cut budgets for big live bands.
Ouch.
But the Dazz Band, the book says, kept that strong connection with their core fan base who loved what they did.
And they still had the respect of their peers.
Definitely. The biography mentions people like Maurice White from Earth, Wind and Fire, the legendary Roger Troutman, producers Full Force, members of the time. They all recognized the Dazz Band's musicianship and innovation.
Seen as pioneers in bringing funk into the modern era.
Yeah, showing how to use the new sounds without losing the funk essence.
And that desire for maybe more control, adapting to the label shifts, led them to leave Motown?
Seems so. They moved to RCA Records in 1986. The biography suggests they were looking for a bit more creative freedom at that point.
And the RCA albums Wild and Free and Rock the Room reflect that continuing evolution.
They do. Wild and Free in 86 was quite polished, definitely radio-friendly. Tracks like the title song, The Dazz Is Back, Rock the Room.
And Rock the Room in '88 leaned more into contemporary R&B.
Yeah, definitely more towards that R&B New Jack Swing feel.
It had,
Anticipation, which became a big Quiet Storm hit.
the slow jams for late-night radio.
Exactly. And tracks like She's My Lady, the title track, it really showed their resilience, smartly adapting their sound again, but still sounding like the Dazz Band.
And that international fan base became even more important then.
Crucial. The book emphasizes their strong following in Europe and Japan, places where funk and soul has always remained popular. They kept delivering those classy, high-energy funk shows overseas.
So we get into the 1990s, hip-hop is king, New Jack Swing is cresting. What's the Dazz Band's move?
Well, according to the biography, they weren't really chasing the trends anymore. It was more about honoring their own journey, their own sound.
And then something interesting happens. Funk gets this whole second life.
Exactly. The sampling era arrives in full force,
Sure.
and hip-hop producers start digging in the crates.
Looking for those Dazz Band grooves, the horns, the bass lines.
You got it. The book lists big names. LL Cool J, DJ Quick, Dr. Dre used their stuff, Pete Rock and CL Smooth. Suddenly, their music is reaching a whole new generation through these samples.
So it must have been validating in a different way.
Absolutely. And it meant their focus shifted even more towards live performance.
Playing those circuits like Funk Fest, old school jams.
Yeah, becoming staples on those tours. The biography says they were sellouts, really cementing their status as living legends alongside peers like Cameo, the Bar-Kays, Zapp, known for delivering incredibly tight, polished sets year after year.
They also went independent after RCA.
They did. Released an album called Under the Streetlights in 1995. The book describes it as kind of mixing their classic harmonies with newer grooves, maybe a bit more introspective on tracks like the title song Time Traveler, Funkology 101.
Funkology 101, I like that. Still students and teachers.
Right, still evolving, still exploring the music.
And their influence kept spreading beyond just direct samples.
Yeah. The biography connects their sound to the development of things like acid jazz, which loved those funky breaks, and neo-soul, even house music. DJs like Jazzy Jeff, Mark Ronson, even Daft Punk are mentioned as acknowledging their importance.
Wow, Daft Punk too.
Yeah, their musical DNA is just woven into so much black popular music that came after them.
Then they started getting more formal recognition in the media too.
They did. VH1 specials, that Beat Unsung episode in 2015, Funk Never Dies.
That was a great episode.
Yeah, really shone a light on their story. PBS documentaries too. The book positions them as these respected torchbearers, ambassadors for funk. And interviews gave fans deeper insights into the journey, the ups, the downs, always very real.
And the Hall of Fame conversation started happening.
Definitely. The biography makes a strong case for them as deserving contenders, citing the innovation, the musicianship, the lasting influence, and newer artists acknowledging them too.
Like who?
Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak, Janelle Monáe are mentioned as artists whose work reflects that Dazz Band influence.
Okay, so into the 2000s, the digital age really takes hold. How did they handle that?
They adapted, embraced MP3s, streaming, got active on social media, and importantly, they kept releasing new music independently. An album called Time Traveler came out in 2001.
With tracks.
The title track, Time Traveler, Digital Groove, and get this, still whipping.
Ha! Still whipping. That's brilliant. Shows they still had it.
Absolutely. And that international touring just kept going, became staples at major festivals in Europe, Japan. The book talks about audiences filled with young and old fans, everyone singing along. Bobby Hare is credited with keeping the live show fresh.
Collaborations kept them connected too.
Yeah, working with some modern producers and artists. The book mentions Damn Funk doing a remix, Let It Whip 2010, and getting nods from contemporary artists like Thundercat, Childish Gambino. Their music wasn't just retro, it felt timeless.
And that unsung episode, plus streaming, making their whole catalog available, that really boosted things again.
Huge impact. Suddenly, anyone anywhere could discover their music easily. Listener numbers grew globally, and the book mentions archival live recordings starting to surface, showing off that legendary stage energy to people who never saw them back in the day.
So fast forward to the 2020s. They're still active.
Still going strong. They even adapted to the pandemic doing live streams, and they're actively passing the torch, doing funk workshops, webinars, sharing their knowledge.
Still making new music, too.
Yep. An EP called Groove Continuum dropped in 2021. Blending their classic sound with contemporary stuff on tracks like Back to the Groove, electro-soul, Funk for the Future. Still collaborating, too.
And back on the road post-pandemic, playing the big festivals.
Absolutely. Jazz and Heritage, New Orleans, Essence Fest, Montreux Jazz Festival, still getting celebrated for their energy, their musicianship, and apparently Let It Whip Live still absolutely rocks the house.
No surprise there. And the official recognition continues.
Yeah, the biography mentions academic studies looking at their work, and they received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Funk Music Awards in 2023.
Wow. Okay, so pulling it all together from this biography, what's the big picture takeaway from the Dazz Band's journey?
I mean, it's just an incredible story of adapting, right? Constantly adapting to a changing musical landscape, changing technology, changing industry, but without ever losing that core thing that made them special.
That blend of musicianship, showmanship, and just sticking with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sheer persistence. And it shows how great music, built on real skill and a clear vision, just finds a way to last. Through samples, through live shows, through new generations finding it online.
It feels like a masterclass in how you balance being an artist, having that musical depth.
Right, that training they had.
You start with the demands of the music business, staying relevant, keeping people dancing.
They navigated that incredibly well, keeping their integrity while still making hits and evolving.
So we've taken this deep dive into the Dazz Band's legacy, from those Cleveland clubs all the way to the Grammys and beyond, really guided by the insights in this biography from MW One Stop's Music, Movies, and Sport.
And their story is just such a testament to the power of funk, and the resilience you need as an artist dedicated to your craft, always evolving, but staying true to that groove.
So for you, the listener, maybe this makes you want to dig into that whole Cleveland funk scene more, or maybe get nerdy about 80s music production techniques.
Or maybe just track down all those hip-hop songs that sampled them.
Yeah. Or maybe it just makes you want to put on Let It Whip right now and,
just move, which honestly is a perfect response.
Definitely. So here's something to think about. In an industry famous for chewing up artists, how does a band like the Dazz Band manage to stay vital for decades? Adapting to synth pop, hip hop, streaming. What was the secret ingredient to their enduring Dazz?
Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until the next time we unpack something fascinating for you, keep digging.